In a quiet village in Ireland, there is an old grave no one visits. No flowers are ever placed there. No prayers are ever said. Only stones, piled one over another as if to keep something from rising. They say beneath those stones lies the Dearg Due, a woman remembered not for how she lived, but for what she became after death, a spirit who rises from her grave to lure the living close and drain the life from them, one soul at a time. Long before she became something feared, the Dearg Due was simply a young woman. Some stories say she lived in a small village surrounded by green fields and quiet hills, where life moved slowly and everyone knew each other's name. She was known for her beauty, but more than that, she was known for her kindness. There was a man she loved, a farmer's son with little wealth but an honest heart. And for a time, it seemed her life would be simple and happy. But not all lives are allowed to follow the path they choose. Her father was a powerful man in the village, proud, ambitious, and unwilling to let his daughter marry for love. Instead, he arranged for her to marry a wealthy chieftain, a man known not for kindness but for cruelty. She begged her father to reconsider. She pleaded, wept, and refused. But in the end, she had no choice. The marriage went forward, and from that day on, the light in her life slowly began to fade. The man she married cared little for her happiness. He kept her confined, watched, and alone. The laughter she once carried disappeared. The warmth in her eyes turned distant, and though she was still alive, she began to feel as though she had already been buried. Some say she tried to escape, others say she simply stopped speaking altogether. But all versions of the story agree on one thing. She died young, not from illness, but from heartbreak. She was buried at the edge of the village, where the ground was soft and the wind moved quietly through the grass. The villagers dressed her in white, as was the custom. Her hands folded gently across her chest. Candles were placed beside her through the night, flickering softly as prayers were whispered for her soul. By morning, she was laid into the earth beneath a simple grave, marked only by stone. The soil was pressed down firmly as though to hold something in place. And for a time, the village returned to its quiet life, believing her story had come to an end. Until the night she rose again. It began with whispers, men vanishing after wandering alone at night, strange sightings near the burial mounds, and a feeling that something was watching from the darkness. Then one night, a man claimed he saw her, standing at the edge of the road, pale, silent, beautiful as she once was. She spoke to him gently, called him closer, and when he stepped toward her, she drained the life from him. The villagers came to understand what she had become, not a ghost, not a spirit bound to memory, but something far more dangerous, the Dearg Due. She did not hunt wildly or without purpose. She chose her victims carefully. She would appear at the edge of the road, or just beyond the glow of a lantern, silent, familiar, almost comforting. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft, inviting, like someone calling you by a name you had not heard in years. And those who followed her felt no fear at first, only a strange calm, as though they were walking towards something they had always known. But by morning, they were gone. Some said she drank their blood. Others believed she consumed something deeper, their life, their spirit, their very will to exist. And each time she fed, she grew stronger. Panic spread quickly. Men refused to travel alone after dark. Doors were locked before sunset, and every shadow seemed to hold the shape of something waiting. The villagers knew they could not allow this to continue, so they turned to the old ways. Guided by ancient beliefs, they returned to her grave. They dug into the earth where she had been buried, and though no one spoke of what they saw, they acted quickly. They drove her back into the ground, and this time they did something different. They covered her grave with heavy stones, one after another, until the weight of them pressed firmly against the earth, not to honor her, but to keep her from rising again. Even today, the story of the Dearg Due is told during Samhain, the ancient Celtic festival marking the end of harvest. It is believed that on this night, the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin. Spirits walk freely. Old things return, and some say the stones on her grave are not always enough. Somewhere in Ireland, there are still old graves marked not by crosses, but by stones, piled carefully, deliberately, as if someone long ago wanted to make sure that whatever lies beneath stays there. And if you ever come across such a place, a grave no one speaks of, covered in stone instead of flowers, it might be best not to linger, because some stories are not meant to be remembered, and some spirits are not meant to rise again. They say love can endure beyond death, but in the case of the Dearg Due, it did not return as something gentle. It returned as hunger. So if you ever hear a voice calling you softly in the dark, gentle, familiar, almost comforting, don't follow it, because she is still out there, waiting to be remembered.